Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the workshop of February 20th, 2023 for the Board of County Commissioners. Would you all please rise for the pledge? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the first thing we have on our agenda is Mr. Lee Cloy from our lodgers tax. Come on down. Looks like we might have a representative from the Mancos district.
We do.
All right.
Yeah, he wrote us, and I told
Can
him,
I get you to turn on your mic and
I'm sorry,
pull it in front of you, please?
okay. I apologize, but I should know better than that. Yes, Jason, he wrote Brian and I told him to send in a application as soon as possible. And he's replacing Rachel Marbanks in Mancos as the economic developer. So I think it's a win-win for us.
Okay. So I know that when you were here last time, Travis, we had talked about advertising this. Did we actually do that or not? Or
Yes.
okay. And that's associated with this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I said do that. He was actually watching the YouTube at the meeting and said, and he told me who he was and what, and I'm like, okay, so I went and talked to him.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Very good. So we can make that appointment tomorrow. We can't make it today. But, okay, very good.
Okay, and then we will schedule a meeting, get them on board, and then we'll go through all those applications when they come in for grants.
Great. And then we'll approve those the end of March, 1st of April, probably?
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
All right. Anything else?
No, I think we're ready to go.
All right.
Hopefully we'll have some happy people. We got a nice balance in the account right now, to the tune of about 380,000. So,
Nice.
yeah.
Nice. So the Airbnbs and the VRBOs are definitely helping.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Next up, we have our
Touchy.
Mr. Chief Judge. What do we call you now, Matt?
Still
Or
district attorney until the 27th.
okay.
Thank you for taking me on Monday rather than Tuesday. I
bet.
will be in court, but I just wanted to express my great regard for this body, for all the hard work that you guys have done, for always taking the time to listen and consider the position that I take as district attorney as it relates to various matters, the frankly helpful advice and suggestions that you've had as it related to housing issues. I am going to be transitioning on the 27th to the county court judge for Dolores County. I look forward to still being able to serve this community. I've grown to love it over the many years that I've been here now, but I wanted to let you guys know what the plan is for the district attorney's office and what will happen during this transitional period. So what's going to happen is I am meeting with the Attorney General's office on Wednesday. They've been in good communication with me as it relates to this. They take over in the interim at the office very briefly until the judge appoints the governor appoints a new district attorney. That application process is open. I happen to know a couple people that are applying, and they're all very good and strong candidates. And specifically, Mark Franklin and Jeremy Reed from my office are applying, and either one would make an absolutely excellent district attorney. They both have considerable experience in that arena. I don't know who else is going to apply. I've made some suggestion to the governor's office for people to reach out to, and I hope they take me up on that. The AG's office will be here for, I would think, approximately 2 weeks before the governor appoints someone. Once that appointment takes place, I will just ask. it's not my responsibility anymore, and I'm going to be stepping away. But I would just ask you guys to show the same grace that you've shown to me, to whomever my predecessor is. They're going to need assistance in making sure the office is running smoothly, and I know that you guys are more than capable of helping. I also want to answer any questions that you guys might have to ask about this.
I don't have any.
I don't really have any questions either. I mean, I understand for you, you know, it's kind of a career move, and kudos to you, or wherever you want to go with it. And you're not really leaving the area, so it's not like we're not going to run into you.
No, yeah, y'all still have to see me around, unfortunately. So,
Hopefully we don't run
So
into you at your,
Yeah,
in
on a professional
court.
basis.
hopefully not.
How short is this going to leave your office?
So we have brought staffing up to. So let me tell you just where we're at. Commissioner Copenhaver, we have 3 full-time attorneys, and then myself. We also have a contract attorney, Drew Buffington, who handles misdemeanors over in the Dolores County area. And then we have Caroline Davenport in my office. She is taking the bar tomorrow, is when that starts. That's a 2-day process. She will not find out results until June because it's the government, and, you know, we can't do anything super efficiently. And so once she finds out those results, it's anticipated that she would then transition into a role as a deputy attorney. I don't have now power necessarily over that, but I'm going to strongly suggest to my predecessor that that would be a great idea. She's very skilled and competent, knows what she's doing. She needs a little bit of training, but that's where everybody starts. When the additional person is appointed or the AG's office comes in, we should be staffed all except for one position. And that what we should have is another full-time position for a deputy district attorney, even after Caroline is, knock on wood, passes the bar and gets to that point. The complication arises if somebody like Jeremy or Mark from the office is the one who receives this appointment. They're going to immediately need to hire at that point. Now, in the interim, I have talked with a couple different entities, first being CDAC, which is the Colorado District Attorney Council. They have very graciously extended an offer to assist in this transitional period. So if we need a warm body in a courtroom, they're going to help us find that. Christian Champagne from the 6th Judicial District has also extended that he would be willing to send one of his deputies over if we needed coverage for something. And I've gone through and sat down with Jeremy and just kind of listed through all the dockets that we have through the end of March to find out whether or not there's going to be any periods where we don't have coverage, and it looks like we're going to be okay. In that interim period, things happen, so as we keep going through that process, we will ensure that there's a backup plan. But to just very directly answer your question, today I need a deputy district attorney, and when I leave, depending on who is appointed, that is going to still exist as a necessity.
But we have aid if we need it.
Correct.
It's just a matter of, we're probably 6 months out then of being one position short. Is that what you're saying?
So I've been attempting to fill that position for a year and a half, and it is a situation where we don't get a lot of applicants. I can go into all the reasons why we might not be getting a lot of applicants, but then the applicants that we have gotten, I am very selective about who I choose for this type of position, and some of the applicants just haven't met that standard.
So we could be short for a while. There's
I would
whole-
I would think so. And I'll just be very direct. I think that that necessity for that attorney shouldn't outweigh looking for an excellent attorney. And so I have very much tried not to just, hey, you've got a law degree and you're a warm body and let me put you into this position. I would rather be understaffed with excellent staff than be appropriately staffed with staff that I do not fully trust to do the job adequately for the community.
Okay. All right. Question?
No. Appreciate your service.
Thank you,
Yeah.
and thank you, gentlemen. It has been a pleasure
Appreciate it.
working with y'all.
All right, Matt, thank
Thanks.
you.
Thank you, Matt.
You still have us till the 27th.
Yep, and I'm stuck for another week, so.
Yeah. I think Public Health has an attorney over there that you could probably, yeah.
Bobby? You know, I saw Bobby on the agenda for that CIP program, and I will just mention to you gentlemen now that I have had nothing but positive things from law enforcement about their interaction. I was just upstairs getting prepped for a motions hearing in which CIP was one of the responders that came out to the scene. I will just, for my 2 cents on this, they are doing a valuable service to the community, and they're doing good work. So, leave it at that.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, Bobby. We're going to talk about the transportation licensing as it
Yes.
relates to the CIP.
Secure
Since this is a
transportation. Yes.
New
This will be our first one.
mandate.
Yes. Okay, and this is for CIP, the Community Intervention Program. So, Mr. Spratland did the application process. We sat down and went over everything together. I believe I sent everything. You should have all the attachments, right? So we've gathered up all the pieces. Everything is here. He's paid both the license and the permitting fees. The license was a $400 fee. It's good for 3 years. The permitting fee is $100. It's good for 1 year. If you all approve this and sign this license, it will start dated tomorrow for the CIP vehicle. So I don't know if you want to march through each one of these papers. I don't know how we treat this since it's how you guys want to do it, but I'll just kind of skim. So the application for licensing is pretty self-explanatory. Mr. Spratland has his background written on there too as far as his experience. He signed that document. Then the application for secure transportation vehicle permit, again, it is a non-partitioned, so it's a type 2 application, meaning there's no barriers in the vehicle. And again, Mr. Spratland completed this. He had the Montezuma County Fleet Services, Shane Higman did the review for the mechanical evaluation. Everything was acceptable in that. And then we got current copies of the insurance and registration for the vehicle. Then the next document would be the Secure Transportation Vehicle Inspection Report, which Mr. Spratland went over that, again, for a Type 2 non-partitioned, no physical restraint, so it's a Class B vehicle. That is all been approved. He also gave me a list of all employees that could ride or do ride in the CIP vehicle, and that is one of the other attachments. And then we have the actual vehicle permit that needs to be signed by the commissioner and the chairman and the county clerk. So, and that can be signed tomorrow. So those are the other 2 documents. And they have to keep a copy of this in the vehicle, well, both of these in the vehicle. I'm assuming that, where does the original signed copy go? Like when you do liquor licenses and things like that, does that stay at the clerk?
Yes.
I think
Okay,
it does stay
so
with
I
the
would think
clerk,
that this
yeah.
probably would stay with us on file, since, I don't know. What do you think, Ian? I don't really
She would
know.
probably have a copy of it also, just so that,
Yeah, my
Yeah.
suggestion would be
We're-
give the original to the clerk,
To
and
the
then she
clerk,
can
okay.
distribute copies, and I mean,
Okay.
my office will probably have one, you'll have one.
Okay.
And then one will be
That works
recorded as well.
perfect. Okay. Since this is our first one, I wasn't sure how we do that, but that sounds good. So we'll just get a copy from Kim once you all sign and stuff. Okay?
once we sign them, they all go down to
Yeah.
the end of the table.
Down to the end.
good to have Commissioner Copenhaver back. That way I don't have to try and reach so far.
There you go, yeah.
I don't know, I'm gonna be pretty far away.
Any questions about any of the documents here? No?
Pretty straightforward, since we only have
I thought it
one
went together
deed.
pretty well.
I think so. I think so. You know, Jim started doing his work at the end of December, but by the time we sat down and we went through the insurance wasn't the current insurance, so I needed the current insurance before we took it to the level of getting it approved, and so now we had that, and then getting on the agenda is kind of why it's a little bit delayed here. So anyway, so it'll be good for a year for the permit. So.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I think it went smooth. I do anticipate hearing from Access because they also have vehicles that need to be secure, transportation licensed and permitted. So anyway, all right, well, thank you.
All right, thank
It
you.
was quick and
Okay. Next, we have actually, the next two items are with the sheriff, so we'll go, do you want to do the black and gray grant first, Sheriff? Because that was, which one do you want to do first? All right,
You want to sit up there next to Gerald?
you can, yeah, you can just sit up there.
I'm gonna slip and fall and break my leg.
Just don't roll off the edge over there,
Don't do
okay?
Yeah, no kidding.
I think we've got a liability issue with that cord.
Yeah, well, I'll take it. I don't get sick days or anything like that, so. Stand by, Travis. It's going through this thing. It's spinning. I tell you. Sheesh, crying mistake. Gee, Merry Christmas.
Uh-oh.
It says it's connecting.
There's a whole bunch of stuff.
I've got it on my screen, but it's not up there.
Why did Isaac leave?
We've got it.
I swear to God.
Uh-oh. I didn't touch nothing.
No, we're good, I just.
Gee, Merry Christmas. Well, let's don't waste time.
We can see your screen down here
Oh, you can? Oh,
on,
good.
on these monitors.
nobody else can?
Yeah,
We
we
just
can't see it up
them
there.
But we can see
All
them.
right, good. Okay, so on January the 11th this year, Commissioner Candelaria sent Travis Anderson, County Administrator, this email. Said that there's no county vehicles leaving Montezuma County for private or personal use. I agree with that. It's always been that way with the sheriff's office. And then it was this memorandum that came out January the 12th. Said the same thing, but in addition, it says effective on January 26th, which is fine. But this directive also, this was added to it. that this directive also includes any county vehicles that is utilized or assigned as a take-home vehicle. This is where the crux of this comes from, okay, that with the issues that I have, the county owns the vehicles, but they are assigned to the sheriff. My question is, I have 3 people that that have lived and have worked for the sheriff's office in La Plata County, next door. One being a narcotics detective assigned to the drug task force. I have put together what their distance and mileage is because we were doing this for the past 3 years back and forth. So what the distance is and the time and whatnot and the mileage per year for this detective. And then the senior patrol deputy shows a round trip and what the estimated cost. This is just fuel. This doesn't have anything else on it. I understand that. And then for the patrol division supervisor, his distance and times, so, and what that cost was. So I know that these are all certified peace officers that work here in the county for the sheriff's office. And it doesn't seem to make any sense when, especially in the patrol division, and well, with detectives too, because we're working so closely with the Southwest Drug Task Force, La Plata County, as well as the surrounding counties in New Mexico and Utah as well. But for the patrol division, I only have, and I hate putting this out here to the public, but I only have 2 officers on at a time on 12-hour shift. I'm down 5 positions in patrol, and trying to recruit and retain the officers for what we have, what we can provide, is difficult at most. But the thing is that having them leave and drive a personal vehicle all the way to Cortez and then go to work, and even passing where these calls of service may be. As it is now, they are on duty. They go on duty. It's all recorded on dispatch CAD notes in travel status till they hit the county line. These officers have to have this body-worn camera with them as soon as they get in that vehicle and go. When they hit the county line, they are in service. So they can respond and do a lot, and they do. But in covering shifts for people who are sick, injured, FMLA, vacations, whatnot, I'm down so many in patrol that we have to call upon the division supervisor as well as the senior deputy to cover shifts. And that's what is needed. Sometimes we won't know that somebody is sick until they call in sick that day. There is nothing that says that they have to give me an 8-hour notice. I mean, you never know. But this is the thing that I'm having to deal with in providing the public safety service to the people in the county. And I do not believe that the cost here is exorbitant enough that it would affect. It's like I mentioned earlier, it's like over $10,000 in fines was collected by the county just last year. The senior deputy is our top DUI officer, as well as he's our top traffic enforcement officer. So under a 2,200 square mile county, there's a lot of calls for service, as you all know. I give you those every month. Almost 18,000 calls for service last year alone. That is a lot. And so I'm just asking you to reconsider and understand what my position is and ask for your assistance to help me in maintaining the certified quality applicants that we have that have all of the training and certifications that they have to do every single year to continue to keep that. so that I can recruit and retain the people. Biggest thing is retaining what I have. I'm already lost 2 just this month. So I'm down. I'm down more. And I'm trying to head that off, but it's awful hard. And I'm just asking for you to reconsider this. Okay?
So this was part of our conversation this morning, gentlemen, and I didn't get a allotted amount of time to even go over it with you. We had a meeting with the sheriff, myself, Travis, and finance this morning. So, because I was just following up on the email that I sent out to Travis after we had made the decision that no county vehicles are to leave Montezuma County. And that was everybody, countywide. So I guess what I'm asking, Sheriff, and I asked you this morning, what are the numbers difference? Because of the 3 vehicles that are checked out here, and we have 43,000 miles for one, 25,000, and we don't have the actual on the other one yet because he's a relatively new employee within the last 6 months or something. So, and I don't, we are not looking at this as just for fuel because we have to look at it as the cost of the entire cost of the vehicle. So we felt that to be prudent to our taxpayers that if they're in Montezuma County, they should be here. Colorado is a right-to-work state. It's their responsibility to get themselves to and from work. So, and that's kind of where we made that decision that no out-of-county vehicles to be used for going to and from work.
Let me ask a question. What mileage did you say?
The total miles for unit number 3071, which is assigned to a specific officer, at 43,000. That was from 12/6/21 to 11/7 of 22. So we took a year, basically. Unit number 3039, which was 24/8/63, assigned to a specific officer. So obviously one's driving farther than the other. So you were going to give me the difference, because obviously we understand that some of that's within Montezuma County. We're not.
Most of that is within Montezuma
So
County.
what's the difference is what you were going to bring back to us
Okay.
of where are they traveling to and from, and what's the additional mileage that they are putting on, number one. We did talk to the attorney. As far as the liability, once they're in the vehicle, we're liable whether they're in Montezuma County or
Doesn't
they're
matter
doing
where
a
they're at.
transport. So
That's right.
that's not really the issue. It's the issue of the cost of the vehicle and what we're having to pay in addition. And then again, what we had talked about is these are now benefits being provided to additional people that is not equal throughout the county. So what are the number differences on unit on 3071, 3039, and if you have the new number for the other person that it was assigned to?
And Commissioner, I just want to make one other small distinction. I mean, when you're talking about on duty versus off duty, and liability for on duty versus off duty, there's a difference in terms of Colorado Governmental Immunity Act and the way that that's going to protect. And so, the way I understand it, and Sheriff, correct me if I'm wrong, but the officers that are in the county, they basically clock in when they get in the vehicle in the county.
It doesn't matter who they are, where they're at. Yes.
And so, I think that the difficulty that you could run into is if you have an officer in La Plata County and they get in their vehicle and clock in La Plata County, it's a little bit harder case to make that they're acting within the scope of their employment when they're in a different county and not able to. I mean, it's one thing if you're transporting a prisoner out of county, because then you're doing your job out of county. I mean, that's what you have to do. But if you're just driving through another county to get to work, that's a little different. And then it gets to be a little bit harder case to make that officer's acting within the scope of his employment. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that was never part of the conversation. If they're transporting somebody and they have to go to Denver, wherever they're going, we get that. We're not that was never part of the question. The conversation was to and from work.
I think-
We're moving people out of our county to and from work, and our taxpayers are paying for coverage in Montezuma County, not La Plata County. We have no jurisdiction there. And that's why the directive was given
When
to
I
the
think,
administrator.
They are peace officers in the state. They do have jurisdiction if that is called for. We have agreements with other agencies, including La Plata County, but we don't do that for that. That's not what this is about.
I understand that. This is
Okay.
about no vehicles leaving Montezuma County. County-owned vehicles for getting to and from work, that's all it is.
Well, you mean coming onto work and going to the county. That's what this is. Okay? That's what that is.
What do you
right.
mean coming on to?
Well, I mean, I've got somebody that is 10 minutes away. I've got one that is 15 minutes to the county line. And the same with the third one.
I think the reality of it is, if something were to happen and I had to go into court and make an argument as to whether certain protections of the Colorado Governmental Immunity Act would apply or not apply to that specific situation. If you have an officer that's in the county, it's a lot easier to make an argument that they're acting within the scope of their employment because they're in the county, that's where their duties are. I assume that if somebody's speeding by, they have the ability to stop them.
In
Now,
the county, yes.
in the county.
Yes.
Now, if something were to happen 5 miles from the county line before that officer got to work, it becomes a much harder argument to make that that officer was acting within the scope of their employment. Because what are they doing out of the county? They're not acting as a peace officer at that point. They're acting more along the lines of a commuter. It's a difficult argument to make that at the point in time that that individual's commuting to work, they're a peace officer acting as a peace officer within their job duties. And that's where you could run into some legal difficulties.
Well, I guess I just don't see it that way. But what is the difference when they're in training or working with other jurisdictions that is outside of the county? What is the difference?
Because they're within the scope of their employment. If you're transporting a prisoner, then you're acting within your job duties. If you're on a training, you're acting within your job duties. If you're driving to work, I mean, at the point in time that I leave my house and drive to work, between the point in time that I leave and get here, I'm not acting as the county attorney. I'm just a citizen of Montezuma County driving to work. And that's the distinction.
Well, that's a peace officer that is starting their shift and driving to their work in the county.
I think it
for
would
10 or
be,
15 minutes.
I think it's a hard argument to make, though. I mean, it would be the equivalent of trying to argue that, and maybe it's a little bit easier argument to make than if I tried to argue that, hey, at the moment in time I leave my house, I'm starting my shift. Well, no, because I mean, I can't do anything between the time that I'm driving to work and the time I get here. And it's kind of like that with an officer. Like, what can they do out of county? That would be the problem that we'd run into in a court. And I mean, certainly we would try to make arguments to say, hey, they were within the scope, but when the other side starts saying, well, what can that officer do?
Well, that officer can enforce the law if needed to, but they're not doing any traffic and anything. We get called in to assist in Dolores County and in La Plata County off and on, okay? But, I mean, I see it the same, but you don't, and I understand that. I'm just trying to understand why it would be that difficult to allow this that has been going on for as far as I can. I mean, La Plata County has officers that live and drive their vehicles into Mexico because that law got changed. But that is definitely up to the county commissioners to do this. I'm just asking for you to really reconsider this because this will cause me to have delays in them responding. to get a vehicle. We have no secure place to put this anywhere, in Mancos or on Mancos Hill or anything. We don't have any place.
So let me just add one more thing, because I think it's important for everybody to understand. It sounds like our insurance policy, and Travis, correct me if I'm wrong, will cover vehicles out of the county.
Yes.
So what I'm talking about here is protections of the Governmental Immunity Act. And that's a tool that an attorney can use in court to shield the county from liability.
Right.
And so, I mean, there's sort of two different wavelengths we have to think about. Our insurance is going to cover out of the county. But what tools the insurance company or me or whoever's protecting the county at that point, Ms. Johnson, whoever it is, the tools they're going to have at their disposal are going to be limited, or conceivably could be limited, when that car's driving out of the county and that officer's not on duty. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yep.
100% makes sense, and that's part of the reason for it, is they're outside of their scope. If they're training, if they're doing mutual aid, if they're doing something else, that is part of their scope. So I don't see it being an issue with liability and or an attorney trying to represent that. What we have is a vehicle going to and from home, period. That's all it's being used for.
Well, I see them
So-
coming to work, so I just, it's not personal use. It's not private use. That's the difference. I mean, they're
Getting
not
to
doing-
and from work is your responsibility.
Coming on duty is their responsibility.
But they're not on duty until they get to the county line.
They are on duty, but they're not, according to you, they're not on duty because they're not in the county.
Well, they're not within their, no, they're not. How, what am I missing here? They're not in their jurisdiction, they're not on duty. They're not transporting, they're not training, they're not, what am I missing here? They're not
Are
on
they
duty.
clocked in?
Yes. Yes.
So why are we paying then, that's another question, why are we paying for somebody in La Plata County to get to Montezuma County on duty? I don't get it, that's even
15
worse.
minutes away. Yes. Yes. And if they have to respond to a call when they come on, they'll respond to the call. So,
Well, it was a directive that we gave Travis, guys. He's asking us to reconsider it. Obviously, we won't make a decision today. It's really for discussion. How do you want?
You know, Steve, I really intend to support you in everything you do, because I know you are short. But EMTs don't drive an ambulance home. They come in. Firefighters don't drive a fire truck home. And public perception has also got to be taken into this. I don't like to, don't want to, but you've got to see that. And this is going to be a tough one to get around, to try and do this. Because I've personally seen, not your officers, but I've seen officers pack groceries out of a grocery store and stick them in their car and go home. And if they have an accident doing that, we're stuck. We're really hung out there. And I'm not saying that these guys are doing anything like that, but you don't know. You really don't know. And it's a long reach. You're gonna have to think about this in a while.
And to your point of it's always been done that way, trust me, we are changing things that
I
have
understand.
always been done that way, that we are changing, very proactively looking at everything and changing a lot of things.
Yeah.
Because it just is not, it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
So Commissioner Copenhaver.
I know this is a tough deal since especially where they're that close, you know. But I understand the liability part of it too. That's what concerned me about when this first came up. It's the liability of the county where they're not in the county itself that they're supposed to be doing. How many of them do you actually have that are doing this? 3?
3. And I hope I don't lose any of them.
Shows
Yeah.
3
Because I'm
right
telling
now.
you, I cannot find certified officers who live in this county, okay? Other than what I'm doing now with the deputy step level and the detention deputies and getting them through the academy to help fill now 5 positions. Yeah. You know, when they go to training and stuff out of the area, and it's not that often, but because I try to bring the training here, it saves a lot of money. But there are some certifications and trainings that happen. And so they drive from here to Colorado Springs or Denver or Grand Junction, okay, and they have their
That's
per
not in
diem
question.
and everything, and it's like, well, they drive from the hotel to a place to eat
That's not in
and back.
question. Because they are at training,
Yeah.
it's logged as training, and we realize that they have to be fed while they're at training. That's not what this immunity says. Ian can justify that in a court of law to say, hey, somebody got hit on Federal Boulevard because he was pulling out of a parking lot. Somebody hit him, he was at training. I get that. We're not talking about that. This is specifically, this is going home. This is using it as a POV, and that's not what its intention is for. So
Well,
we realize that there are some inherent hazards that we all have to accept. That's one of them. If they're gonna go eat, they're gonna go eat. I get it. We're not saying that at all. Training is a totally different issue. This is a POV to and from work.
that just seems like it's a very fine line to separate that.
It's-
Okay, it does, I'm sorry, but because they didn't come on duty when they're at training, they left, and they have training for 5 days a week, okay? They certainly don't go on and off duty when they're out somewhere else in training. And so I just see the fine line there, but the thing is that I have to be able to have the coverage here in the county to do what my job duties are. And I need everybody that I possibly can to be available. That's why they're subject to call back to work, to duty, at any time, even if they're on vacation.
Yeah.
Okay? That's
I
just the way
understand
that it is. It does not happen for anybody else. It does for us because of what we do. And that's really just where I'm at. And I just don't know what I would be able to do to help with that. And I mean, it's like,
Okay. Anything else, gentlemen? We can reconsider this and, I think it's on for tomorrow. Any other discussion?
No.
Commissioner Copenaver?
Anything else?
All right, we're gonna move on then. Next is gonna be the black and gray marijuana grant.
okay. So what I saw inside, and we talked about it, or I showed it, this permanent grant was started way back in 2016, 2017 for marijuana enforcement. And through the state, they paid the work that we did, and that's what it is. That money was paid to the sheriff's office, to the county for this enforcement, and this budget was prepared to help have funding available for strictly this drug enforcement. And so I knew that the marijuana impact funds are going to start dwindling. They did, okay, quite a bit. In fact, you haven't, Mr. Candelaria have not received yet that award letter, even though they said we've been awarded for the marijuana impact funding. If you look at that, that's from November of 2022 through May of 2024, okay? $11,000, almost 12,000. That's it, okay, for all of that. And that's why that budget was created, and it was approved to be something that at least we'd be able to draw from that, so that we did not have to use any general fund dollars. And that's what I've done with that. It also is starting to pay for equipment such as the RMS database system now, having to do a lot of that because some of those grants are gone. Some of that funding is gone. And so it helps because those costs for those programs and that equipment keeps going up, and this is why this is there. But when I saw that $18,119 was taken out of that overtime line item, I just asked what happened to it.
So
why?
that was an error. And I got with Phaedra on that. The 18,119 did not carry over. It shows on our budget. If you guys look at that, it was left off. That should not be left off. So that budget of the 108.6 is correct. It's not the 94.93. So that shows that it did not carry over the 18,119. So that was just a clerical error on our side. It does carry over. So the actual is.
No, it's like I
No,
didn't
it's,
spin that. So,
no.
You know?
You're correct. So the actual is the 108,612.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
That's all I
That's
ask.
it.
And these dollars need to be used to pay for what we do so that it doesn't
Yep.
come out of the general fund.
Yep.
Okay.
And it's there. The 108.6 is there.
All
That
right.
was just, if you look at those numbers as they come across, that number did not carry over.
Yeah, it didn't.
So,
And that's why I asked, because
Yep.
it's like, okay,
and that was an error that we talked to Phaedra about, and we
Okay.
agree it was our error. So that dollar value is there. So the 108,612 is the actual.
all right, thank you.
Okay. That one was easy. All right.
Should have put that on the agenda last week, so we could have got that taken care of.
All righty. Next up, we have discussion regarding an access to Trail Canyon, Mr. Schuenemeyer.
Sirs, 1980, in response to some cattle being poached and general thievery in Trail Canyon, Mr. Eastmalis and others wrote a letter to the Montezuma County Commissioners, handwritten letter, which I've shared with you, that asked for them to close the road to motor vehicle traffic. The Montezuma County Commissioners at that time passed a resolution saying that they would close the road. Instead of doing Colorado Revised Statute 43/2/303, how to properly vacate a road, they used Colorado Revised Statute 43/2/101, how to put a county road on a map. For 20 years, it didn't really matter much. Mr. Malis was the guardian of the gate there. Water users all had access to the road there. Cattle drives were able to go. People with hay equipment would go up and down the road. People were both hauling and driving cattle up and down the road. Around 2000, a different group of people started buying it, and they took that this abandonment, which is an illegal term, meant that the county should be able, or it meant that they could be able to close off the road to all historic uses. This road, the Trail Canyon Road, is the definition of a 2477 road. It was on the Hayden Atlas. It was on the Hayden surveys from the 1800s. This has all been documented via an OHP that was done as part of the Gold Medal Orchard historic context. This has created a situation here where irrigators have been having water stolen from them consistently and not been able to get access to go up there. People have finally, there's another illegal gate that is going to put on there to the west of the closure. If you can, sir, do you have the ability to pull up the county GIS mapping so people can actually see this? I think it would be helpful to see what we're talking about here and where we're talking about. The actual resolution that the county passed as to where they closed it is about a half a mile from where any of the gates are now. If this was in the correct place where the closure was, the Ute Mountain Ute tribe would still have access to their 800 acres of land, over 800 acres of land. Right now, they have been cut off from that. They are aware of the issue. They will be bringing it up. I have told them I can't represent them, but I will certainly advocate for them and their rights to access their land. This is not a place that we can stop and call 911 for every time we see water stolen. Up where we've had water stolen repeatedly that we found is at the splitter box that the NRCS designed back around 2000, around this whole same time that this was going on. There is further, we feel like there is a danger of us having further water stolen further up the canyon. What we are asking for is that the irrigators have unfettered access to their irrigation rights. This is clearly what the commissioners had intended. We have signed affidavits from Commissioner Bader and Commissioner Bauer in 2003, 2004, 2005. I gave you guys copies of those showing that they did intend that water users should be able to continue to access their historic rights to water on that. If you can bring it up a little bit bigger there, please. Okay, and then bring it down a little.
You got to go all the way up to County Road N.
Yeah.
There's a gate right off of County Road N, I believe is where that gate is at.
There's a
That you're
gate, there's a
talking
gate up top. So when the county passed this resolution, they said, give me a second, I'll give you the exact.
So, looking at all this stuff, and our attorney has given us kind of his dissertation on it via email to all of us. And you do, and we actually have a water expert over here with us, you do have a right.
So Commissioner, I want to be real careful about giving legal advice here.
No, I know. I'm just saying that you still have a right to your water and to maintain it. And I'm pretty sure that, well, I
If
guess
you-
if that's giving,
so-
I can't give legal advice. 'cause
I
I'm
think,
not
I
a-
think just be careful. I mean, there are provisions in the state constitution and in statute that relate to a water user's ability to maintain their ditch and monitor their ditch. But as far as that goes, that's not really a conversation for today.
Okay.
Yeah. If you look at this problem was made for, so let me just get to the first point here. On the west side, on the upper side, the gate, they said at the terminus of Road N there on the top of the canyon. On the bottom of the canyon, I'm sorry.
I think the batteries are going out.
Okay.
See if that one works any better.
Can you hear me better? All right. This is not my natural environment. I apologize.
It's okay.
I'm much better in the field. You look at where they put the western, the lower end of the where the closure was at. It was at the 3/4 line of section 34, township 36, range 17 west. I was not able to pull that up on the county GIS program. I had to use I had to go Google Montezuma County township section range map to be able to pull up where that is. That is about a mile west of where any of these current roads are. If you can expand that a little bit more, I can show you where basically that is on the map and why that's important. Now, as far as the access of the water itself goes, in June of 2005, and I believe you guys should all have seen a copy of this also, then Sheriff Gerald Wallace sent a letter to water users saying they would be arrested for even trying to access their ditch without permission. That is clearly against Colorado water law. Had the county properly vacated the road, they would have put in, as we know from sworn affidavits of Commissioner Bader and Commissioner Bauer, they would have put in protections for these water users to be able to use that road to access their water rights, to ensure that there was no issues of anything being impounded illegally, of any obstructions in there. The water right is, as we know, a right and a responsibility, and ditch users have a responsibility to be going up there and maintaining it. To do that, they have to have access. They shouldn't have to make another road paralleling the ditch when the historic road was there to use. So after Sheriff Wallace put out this letter telling people they would be arrested, that created a situation to where they could not go up and access at all. That locked them completely out of their water in a way that was completely illegal. A few years ago, as we started getting more involved with this, because we didn't understand the multiple levels of crazy that were going on here, we had never seen anything like this. David Sanford, who is a original board member for us in the Montezuma Orchard Restoration Project, could not understand how irrigators were not able to use historic access, why they didn't have historic access rights. Talking with the other irrigators on this ditch, we got a copy of this letter. I took this to our current sheriff, Sheriff Nowlin, who said, no, we can go up there anytime we want up the ditch. That's not real practical going up the ditch. The ditch hasn't been maintained in years. The road parallels the ditch for most of the time. It's also worth noting here that under Colorado law, the state sees the entire Trail Canyon system as the ditch. The entire creek going through Trail Canyon is considered the ditch. So we feel like that irrigators have an absolute right to use this unfettered access, as the county commissioners at the time intended that to have happen. We feel like that also in this resolution that the county did pass, they did provide for public stock drives to ensue. The other things about this document is that if you look at it, it says anyone with land abutting the county road. There's public land up there that abuts the county road. We are not asking this to be blown wide open. We just heard the sheriff talk about how short they are with resources. Allowing this to be open for all traffic, blow it completely open, would not be a real responsible thing to do, we feel. We don't want to see that. The Road G, Road J intersection is already one of the most dangerous in the county. The only thing that saves it at all is that there's not a lot of traffic right now coming off of Road J. So what we are asking for with this is that the county write a letter to there's 3 private property owners up there now. We are asking that the county write a letter to those people informing them of irrigators' right to unfettered access on the road, that stock drives are allowed on the road, that any gates outside of this closure be moved. That will allow Ute Mountain Ute tribal members to access their 800 acres up there.
So commissioners, I received this email from Mr. Schuenemeyer kind of laying out what he just laid out for us today, and did a little bit of research myself. What it boils down to is in 1980, the commissioners came together and they passed a resolution with the intent of vacating Road J. That resolution clearly sets out a exception for stock drives to go down that road. It's clearly spelled out. Interestingly, the resolution cites to a statute that was in effect at the time. It's 43-2-110, and that statute it really talked about it's the primary and secondary road statute, and it talks about it does have a slight reference to abandoning state highways and how those become county roads, but it really wasn't applicable to the abandonment of the Trail Canyon Road. It was an error. That statute should not have been cited to. The correct statute to be cited to would have been 43-2-304, and that was the statute that at the time provided the mechanism for abandoning county roads. Now, the legal significance of that, I don't think it's particularly significant that the resolution cited to the incorrect statute. The commissioners clearly intended to abandon that portion of the road. That's reflected in the resolution and the county minutes from the meetings that happened. There was a public hearing held. All of the processes were followed to abandon that road. And it's clear that that the commissioners at the time intended to set out a right-of-way for stock drives, or a right of use for stock drives through there. I didn't find anything in the minutes at the time or in that resolution that indicated any sort of intent to set aside a right-of-way for, or an easement for water users. The statute did, 43-2304, that did specifically say that easements may be reserved when a road's abandoned for continuing use for ditches or canals. So there is a specific reference to, at that point in time, the commissioners could have carved out that exception. Now, I think that there's really good arguments that that exception is contained in state statute and the Colorado Constitution in and of itself. But at that time, nothing in the minutes indicates that there was any sort of easement carved out for water users. That's not reflected in the resolution that was passed at the time. So where that all leads, I think where we're at this point in time is that the county abandoned Road J through that resolution. Now, what that means for water users there or anybody else wanting to access that road, I don't know. I don't think it's this board's position to opine on that at this point in time. That's not a county road. I don't think that there's any way that we could go into a court of law and make any sort of argument that that is a county road. That's abandoned. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't potential legal actions for a private property owner to take if, for instance, they're not able to access their water or they're not able to access the ditch. But that really is an action that the private landowner would need to take up rather than the county. This isn't a county road that's being blocked. This isn't a situation like we had on Road 41. This is, for all intents and purposes, a road that was abandoned. And I mean, even for instance, I'll give you an example. Even for instance, if somebody were to cut off a right-of-way for a stock drive through there, put a gate up and no more stock drives could occur through there, really that still would be the duty of the person trying to do the stock drive to get that opened up. The county doesn't maintain jurisdiction of this road. We're done. We're out. We abandoned it. And so I think that's really where we stand at this point from a legal perspective. As to the idea of writing a letter to the property owners up there, my advice would be I don't think that's the county's place. This is not a county road. We're not in a position where we can really even advise folks up there what they can or can't do. And so, to the extent that private landowners or private citizens, have an issue with water or otherwise, I mean, that's certainly ripe for discussion and they would be free to bring those actions forward. But at this point, I don't see that the county really has a lot of standing to do a lot here.
Can I make a point here, please? If you look at the resolution 15 that was passed, the county received a petition to close a portion of the road. Here is the petition, closing it only to motor vehicle traffic. That's all they were asking for. Had the county properly vacated the road, to use the term abandon is using a term that is not a legal term. They needed to properly abandon the road. I have no doubt. They also say here that anyone abutting it, public property abuts that. The county can't give away BLM land, public land. The county doesn't have the ability to do that, and yet this road goes through public land that the county is saying it gave away. It cannot give away federal land. This will wind up going to a federal court. What the county's position is our only recourse is to sue the people up there, and that's not true. Our recourse, and we do not want to do this, is to take this to a federal court. The BLM will have to enjoin this as it's a public trust issue. The tribe will have to enjoin this. Why? This will be ranchers, it will be irrigators, it will be the BLM, it will be other people in the public that feel like they have a right to access their public land via this historic 2477 road. Why Montezuma County, a county that spends tax dollars on public access, public right-of-way signs, would be willing to not fight for public access, historic right-of-way, is hard to understand. I get that the county doesn't want to have to do this. I get that none of you want to deal with this issue right now. This issue is not going to go away. Twice already last year, we witnessed water being stolen up in Trail Canyon. We cannot have our water being stolen like that. We cannot farm there with what's happening now. It's not possible. Had the county properly vacated the road, the county would be excused from whatever liabilities go with it now. But because the county did not properly vacate the road, they are still responsible, and I believe a federal judge would see that also.
I just, with all due respect, I don't agree with the assertion that the county didn't properly abandon that road. I think that the resolution sets forth the clear intent to abandon that road, and I'm comfortable giving you guys the advice that the county did abandon that road.
And I think we've taken it to a point now with, you know, obviously you're saying this is going to federal court. There's not much we better say.
We're not wanting to take this, Commissioner Lindsay, sir, we want to be able to farm. We want to be able to use our water and not have people steal it. We want to be able to farm and be left alone. We want to not go, we are here so as to not go to court. We do not want to do that. We want to see this be resolved here. A basic concept with people is that if you make a mistake, you fix the mistake. Our lawyer, your lawyer, has just said that the county did not do this right. They made a mistake. This needs to be remedied. There are affidavits here from Commissioner Bader and Commissioner Bauer saying that they clearly intended that water right was a private property right that they intended the water users to be able to use the road for. We shouldn't have to go sue.
We can't abandon private property rights.
So
It's not within our jurisdiction.
I guess that's my question, is that was never abandoned? They
All-
still have
all-
that
all
right,
all the county did was abandon that
The
portion of
road.
Road
That's
J.
all we did.
That's all we did.
right.
But had they done the right statute, it would have put in the provisions that would have protected water users, water users' right of access to Trail Canyon. Had it been in the
I think you said
right,
that's not in the statute that's cited, but that was clearly there.
So if there would have been an intent and they would have laid that out in the resolution, then certainly they would have had the ability to do that. They didn't do it. And so to now take affidavits and get 40 years, 50 years from the point in time that that road was abandoned, I mean, really what we have to look at is the documents, not what we think they may have intended to do or what they should have done or what they could have done. I mean, it's what they did, and the documents pretty clearly lay that out.
the documents also clearly lay out that, according to the petition, all they were asking for was it to be close to motor vehicle traffic. That's what the intent was. There was never an intent that that whole road system would be shut down. There is nothing showing that they intended that Trail Canyon would be cattle-free by 2023. There is nothing showing that those commissioners ever intended to cause this much damage to Montezuma County.
So I don't know how constructive it is to argue back and forth at this point. I think, the one thing I would say is a petition that's asking for something to be done. Just because
Correct.
somebody
And their
petitions for
decision, they
something,
did something different.
the decision certainly in the documents reflects that they intended to abandon that road with a right for stock drives. That's what the documents say.
Evidently they abandoned the portion of road that Montezuma County had jurisdiction over, and that was it. They didn't take away anybody's rights. They still can go, BLM still has that right to call that a road. And I'm not a lawyer.
And there's
I
still,
don't have a certificate on the wall.
there's
but
still
that's the way I see
access
it.
to public lands.
Well,
in
and
different
I think,
spots.
and again, I would just caution at this point.
Yeah.
The county's position, at least what I would recommend the county's position to be, is that we abandon that road.
Yeah.
And anything beyond that, is sort of up to private citizens and landowners.
So you're saying it should just be a civil matter?
Absolutely.
So in other words, so they should just hire an attorney to get access to the gate or through the gate?
That
or
would-
whatever, but that would be up to them.
I would suggest that citizens who have these concerns contact an attorney and get a sense of their options.
I did contact an old friend who I used to do helitack with that went through CU law. His point was that because it was a federal statute with the 2477 road, it will have to go to federal court. This isn't a neighbor suing a neighbor. I also need to again point out the fact that where the gates are right now blocking access are outside of the county closure. That is clearly outside. If you can pull up, sir, do you have the ability to pull up township range and section on that map?
I think
If you
we
look
know
at where
where,
it's the 3/4 line on section 34. If you pull that up, that's clearly outside of it. That's incredibly relevant here because that's the difference of 2,000 members of the Ute Mountain Ute tribe being able to access their land or not, which they can't do right now.
Why can't they?
how have they not been able to access their
Because
land?
it is landlocked. Their closest access, if you look at again on that Trail Canyon map, 2477 Roads was not a set 60-foot from center. It was what the historic use was. The historic use here, I believe the tribe will easily be able to argue in federal court that they have used that land for 1,000 years and accessed it off of that canyon. If you look at where their closest place is, their land passes within about 70, 80 feet from the center of the Trail Canyon Road. There actually appears to be, if you look at it under the county mapping and blow it up enough, you can actually see where someone has been driving there accessing tribal road off of that land. No one with the tribe seems to know anything about this.
So I think,
That gate, anything outside
way
of
in the
that
weeds.
closure needs to be removed. Anything, if the county is saying they closed it here, you're trying to argue that they closed it, that all stands, but that the actual closure line should be ignored. If the county is deciding that it's closed and they have no responsibility, they have no responsibility from that Section 34, Township 36 North, Range 17 West, the 3/4 line of Section 34. Right now, the gates are over on Section 33.
So those are not our gates anyway. Those are the property owner's gates.
I mean, with
Is
the
that correct?
abandonment of the road, it's not our road.
But that part was not abandoned. That's outside of the abandonment.
Then it's private property?
The road was not considered private property. The road goes through private property just as the
So-
road goes through multiple pieces of private.
So
The
I don't-
entire road goes through private property on Road J.
so I don't have a survey in front of me. I don't, we'd have to look at the range to see exactly where the gates are in relation to what the resolution said. But I mean, at this point, I don't know that there's anything more in terms of constructive conversation that we can have at this point.
I think it's still relevant for the county to look at that and understand that that is outside of the closure, that the gate, if the county is going to say that the gate is closed there. Here's why this is relevant to us too. Part of where we've had a lot of our water theft happening is right up there at the splitter box, which is just above where this closure is supposed to have been, not far down the road there, where the person put up an arbitrary gate. Because of that arbitrary gate, after Sheriff Wallace put out this letter that he did saying you couldn't go up there without permission, people had to call, get permission to go up the road, which gave the person time to pull pumps out of the ditch, which one of the water users has pictures of, or take splitter boards off of the water splitter up there. Last spring, Chris Jeter, Dan Hobbs, and myself all observed water being illegally diverted through that splitter box. No one is paying attention to this, but if we take the advice of the county, we can't go up there in spite of that's our water rights. We can't go up there and
I don't
apart.
think that's what our attorney said. I think we can't take away private ownership of your water. We can't take it away. That resolution did not take that away. It just closed the road. So.
It didn't even close the road. The county abandoned the road.
So the county has no jurisdiction over it whatsoever.
Had the
So
county
it doesn't
properly,
mean that you,
but had the county
can't-
properly vacated the road, water users would have still maintained their access.
That's not what we're talking about. When you look at that Road J right there.
no, we need to go to the upper side, is I think where you're talking
No,
about.
this is,
You're not in the right place there,
this
yeah.
is where the road crosses the bridge down there on the Jumel.
You're farther, yeah, you're too far west.
But that's not the Road J we're talking about.
You're too far west.
Here, clear off the county road and somewhere,
No,
right?
it's just up the canyon,
Oh,
right here, this Road J,
Yeah, so if you look,
gotcha.
okay?
so go a little bit to the east now, up canyon, you're going west, go the other direction.
goes on to the right, still
Yep.
further up the canyon.
Keep going up the canyon with it, you'll see.
Goodman Canyon
All the way to the red,
Trail, clear over to the right track.
Yeah,
Yeah,
keep going.
there you go. Okay, that's.
Do you see where the
That's what's
road
close.
dips down closest to the reservation border there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just beyond that, just to the east of that, is where this section 34 three-quarter line is at. That is where the gate was supposed to have been. Had the gate been put there, Ute Mountain Ute tribal members would be able to have full access to their land on that. Again, if you blow this up enough, you'll see that there's a road there someone's been driving, someone has been going on to Ute Mountain Ute tribal land off of the Trail Canyon Road. They clearly have access to their land. This is the only access there. That is utterly cut off other than that.
so I guess my question to you, Ian, is if those gates are, even if they're in the wrong spot, they're not per the legal description of that, was that our responsibility or was that the owner's responsibility to put those gates there? Once we abandoned the road, was it,
Well,
I mean,
Well, to the extent, and again, this would be a matter of getting dug in here and with GIS and giving us an exact sense of where that section line was that road was abandoned. I mean, certainly, if this whole beginning portion of the road was not intended to be abandoned, then obviously there can't be a gate there. Does that make
right,
sense?
which-
I mean,
and that's what I'm saying. If that's an issue that we can resolve and it's not where it needs
That
to
is,
be,
that is an
that-
issue that we can resolve. I
that
mean,
seems
to the
pretty
extent that
easy.
there's a gate in a county road, we can resolve that easily. To the
So-
extent that the gate sits in the portion of road that we abandoned, there's nothing.
Correct, but if he's saying that it needs to go back to the east,
About a mile to the east.
so we're showing it's stopping at this property line here. I don't know where a mile would be here, but yeah, if we got with Doug, I mean, that seems like we could
We just
clear that up.
have to figure out, I mean, that resolution has the exact points
Yeah,
that we
yeah, yeah,
abandoned
yeah.
at.
It is on the three-quarter line. It says right in it, three-quarter line of section 34. That's a findable location. Keep in mind, there was a illegal gate further to the west also on Road J that was there for many years that the county ordered removed just a couple of years ago, sometime right before the pandemic. It was further to the west on the other side of the bridge there.
So I think what we can do then is to look at.
Yeah, I mean, if
look at the
location,
map,
if location
if
of the abandonment
location-
is the issue, that's easy. We can figure that
fix
out. As far as the
Yeah.
abandonment, that's a different deal.
Right.
So,
The abandonment
So-
is still not a legal term, though. And that's something the county has got to cop to, is that it's not a legal term. That is not what the county was intending. We can look at and I realize it's not worth anyone to go back and forth on this, but the county clearly stated per the petition that they received the petition, this was the petition, to close it to motor vehicle traffic. You
Jude,
guys did not have this in your file.
I think for us to sit here and argue what's legal and illegal is for a court of law, it's not
Yes.
for us.
I am not trying to be disrespectful to this body at all. I hope
So,
you all
and-
understand this.
And what their petition stated and what they actually did could have been two different things too.
Sure, I'm
So-
aware of that.
So, we're not gonna argue that. However, we will take a look at this, we'll get with Doug, our
Yeah.
GIS guy, if these things are in the wrong place, that's quick.
We'll fix
That's
We can
easy.
Fix
That's
that
easy.
immediately. And if it's 10 feet, we can fix it. If it's 2 miles, we can fix it. I don't know if that helps you out or not, but we can at least start with that. So we have all the documentation of that township and range too.
yep, it's right in the resolution.
Yeah.
So,
So we have that. All right, anything else?
No.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. McClain.
As usual, I'll make this really quick. Last year, in my budget, I budgeted this in, and we kind of briefly talked about it, about doing a penetration test. And that's mostly for cybersecurity, because as we all know, you can only have as good a security as you know what you need. So this is a way for me to get an outside company to test our system from the outside to make sure I don't have any holes And if I do, then they give me a report, and then it allows me to fix, because I can't always see it from the outside the way other people do. So that's all this is for. It's just getting an outside reputable company, and that's what these guys do, to go through and hack into our system.
Sure you don't want to get a hold of the bad guys and see if they can get in?
Yeah. Especially the ones that keep getting into our email.
Yeah.
That's a hard one, though. They spoof it. That's different than this. They just, you can't do
So
anything about it.
this is budgeted, it's a line item that we're already put in there.
It's
You're
in
just-
my, yeah, it's
you're
in my
ready
maintenance
to-
contract.
You're just ready to execute it.
Just need it signed tomorrow. You can sign it for me, and I can get this going, so we can get this test done.
Okay, you guys have any
I,
questions?
I looked at it, there's no issues. It looks good to me.
I even had them send it in PDF instead of DocuSign, because I knew that was going to be
Well, that's gonna bring up the next conversation that I'm gonna have with Ian, because I see that it's not on here, but I'll let you get out of here so that you don't have to listen to this part of the conversation.
unless I can help.
As all I hear are two strong arms and I can help. Well, I got two strong arms now.
You got two strong arms
got-
there, and you
between
got
us, we
two
got
strong legs over there.
Two arms and two legs, so I guess we're
Not a
good,
brain
huh?
amongst us.
No, that's all I have.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So, Ian, I did send you a DocuSign. I had sent it to you last week and it didn't get on here. Did you get the opportunity to review that? Because
I think this was something for Jennifer Morris, and it wasn't in PDF, and so I forwarded it on to the department head, just like the process is, and that's where we're at.
And I think you're correct, it was for transportation. I'm gonna try to open it and not get in trouble.
I see DocuSign laid off a bunch of employees anyway.
I hope they get rid of a few more.
Yeah. Like all of them.
Commissioner, I'll get with Jennifer and follow up.
So is the gate now actually where the green ends there?
I don't know.
I didn't look at the
See,
gate relative to the
The gate
map.
used to be just on the other side of Reese Malis' house, which is on up around that corner ways from where the green ends now, on up past the house. It didn't end till it went past his house. Right on
think-
the other side of his house is where the gate used to be.
I think if we get with
I haven't
Doug,
been up there in years.
I haven't either.
if we get with Doug, he can pull up the township and range and we can look at that and that's.
I didn't realize that the dispute was about the location of the gate relative to the abandonment. What
either.
was presented to me in the emails was the validity of the abandonment, and so that's what I
just
looked
know
at.
where-
Yeah.
I just know where the gate used to be, because
Yep.
Reese always gave me a key.
Yep. Yeah,
So
yeah.
I had a key to the gate
I think it's an easy,
on both ends,
I think it's pretty easy to figure out.
because it was just,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
but then when he sold that place, that's when all this whole deal,
Yeah, but that's been 40 years ago.
yeah, at least, maybe 30 years ago, I don't know how long
It's been a long time.
It's been a long time. But,
But if it's to move the gates or to make sure they're where they need to be, that's easy.
That's easy.
We can.
I mean, if the
we can do
gates
that.
are in a different place than what we abandoned, that's easy, but that's not what was presented till just,
Correct.
2
It
minutes
was their
ago.
right to be able to access, to get to their water, which I thought from talking to you, you still have a right. We can't abandon
he still has a right
somebody's
to go up the ditch, but he's gotta stay within 15 foot of each side of that ditch, is
Right.
what Colorado law says, I think. That they give you basically 15 foot on each side of that
He
ditch.
can still walk up
To
the ditch.
maintain the ditch. You
Yeah.
can still maintain your ditch.
Okay,
Nobody can stop you from doing that.
right, because
If
that's your
somebody's
water.
stealing your water, call a sheriff.
Okay. All right.
Sheriff can't get there, the gate's locked.
We got one last item for today, and we're gonna turn it over to Mr. Travis, and obviously you guys have seen the emails and all of the dissertation on the strategic planning RFPs. I've looked them over. I have my preference on the one that I really liked. Travis has scored these, but here we have the cost as they pertain to what we are looking at. Obviously, the most cost-effective one is the Same Page Solutions from 11, basically $12,000. The next closest, which is the one that I really liked, was Better City of $30,000. But we don't have $30,000 budgeted. I think we have enough to cover the 12,000, but I don't, well, I know we don't. We don't have 30,000 budgeted.
Yeah, we didn't even look at the 30,000. I didn't realize that we would get RFPs submitted at $66,000 to $80,000. These were the 5 that come in. I came in and scored these. I scored same page as number 1, not only because of the cost, but they have a local connection. They know Montezuma County, family lives here, some vested and some understanding of what's going on in Montezuma County. The next was Better City. I scored them second without looking at even the costs. They do have some pretty good experience in strategic planning, but they provided minimal information on Montezuma County needs. The other 3, I mean, they came in, but again, I only got a couple of phone calls from people inquiring about the needs of the county and what our focal point was going to be for the strategic plan. One did call, but they didn't. We had a pretty good Zoom meeting, but ultimately they didn't have the time to even submit an RFP. So the last 3, you know, the Zillow, the Barry Dunn, and TPMA, I scored them last. Again, a lot of it was understanding what the county's needs were, but basically they all had similar information.
I'm just telling you, I know what we have budgeted,
Yeah.
and looking at the budget and.
They'll work
Cause
with this work.
like I said, I really liked Better City's proposal myself, going through the entire thing, but I realize that
I think,
that's
yeah. I
out of
mean,
my
we're
range.
Way out of our range, but just starting out and starting fresh, we need to start easy, I think.
So we can make that decision tomorrow. Any other
Yeah.
questions for Travis? Okay. All right.
Well, that took a lot less time than I thought it was going to.
Well, they were pretty extensive. It took a
Yeah.
lot of time to go through
It
them.
did.
To go through them, yeah.
Took me a lot of time, but
I fell asleep in the chair a couple of times.
anyway, I did. I liked Better City the best, but till I got to the bottom line.
Yeah. I think if we get more involved and more into this until we figure out how to do this, I think we're doing the right thing.
All right, with that, that's all we have. We are adjourned.
Good.